Michelle O'Neill, congratulations. Historic, momentous, symbolic. We've heard all the words. How heavy does the weight of responsibility feel on your shoulders?
Well, it is a huge historic moment in our history here. The fact that this is a day that many people wouldn't have thought was possible. My parents, my grandparents' generation certainly would never have thought that a nationalist would come into the post of First Minister. So for all of those reasons, it's truly historic. And with that comes obviously enormous responsibility on myself. But I fought an election campaign and I told everybody that I would be a First Minister for all. And I am absolutely determined to lead in that way and to demonstrate that every day. With a huge responsibility on my shoulders now, of course, but it's time for us to get back to business here in the Executive and the Assembly and start to deliver on the things that matter to people and impact on their lives every day. What does First Minister for all mean in practice for someone who has spent their whole political career advocating for some, not for all? Well, I would contend that perhaps I have always been able to advocate for everybody, but certainly when I fought the election campaign, when I talked about being a First Minister for all, that for me is about, I'm somebody who wants to be a unifier. I'm somebody that wants to bring people together. We've had a difficult past, a turbulent past. A lot of harm was caused in the past. And I think it's so important that here in 2024, when we've just celebrated the anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement last year, that we very much look towards the future. And I hope that I can represent the future. I believe I can represent the future. But somebody who wants to work with all communities, not just, I obviously am a Republican, I'm a proud Republican, but I think it's really important that I can look towards those people who identify as Irish Republicans, but also those with a British identity and a unionist identity, and actually tell them that I respect their values, I respect their culture, and that I will demonstrate through my work that I want to work for everybody. Irish Republicans don't usually use the term Northern Ireland, but you did in your acceptance speech. Is that what we're going to see more of? Will Michelle O'Neill be at an Orange March? Will she go to a Linfield football match? Well, I'll consider every invitation that comes my way. I think that's important. And again, that comes back to the demonstrating in terms of your words and deeds, that you're going to fulfil the commitment or the promise that I've made in terms of for all. But certainly, I'm hoping that I get invitations. I want to step into ground that perhaps a Republican hasn't stepped into before. I'm very open to that. But I think this is about, 25 years post the Good Friday Agreement. This is about a new generation. This is about us looking towards the future. Some people say Northern Ireland. I say the north of Ireland. I think we should just all be a bit more relaxed about it. You talked a little about the past there, and it's important to reflect on your journey here. Your father was an IRA prisoner. Your cousin was shot dead by the SAS. Is this the moment to acknowledge that all the violence in the past was wrong? I think we all can reflect on the past and say that, the tragedy, the hurt, the pain, that was real for so many people, and so many people were impacted. I'm so grateful for those people, those political leaders who had the courage to actually bring about a peace process and secure the Good Friday Agreement. Aren't we so lucky as the Good Friday Agreement generation that we're living in a different place? But I acknowledged today in my speech that anyone that lost their life throughout the conflict, without exception, I'm sorry that we lived in a society that happened. I'm sorry for all those people that actually lost a loved one or even were injured throughout the difficult days of conflict. But thankfully, the days of the past, and we now have to move and look towards the future. I'd never ask anybody to move on, but I would ask people to try to, let's move forward together. Let's try to heal the hurt of the past. Let's try to work together and look towards a brighter future for our children and our grandchildren. You've assumed this office, but it's basically on the basis of a deal between the UK government and the DUP. And in that deal, on page 68, it says, on the basis of all recent polling, the government sees no realistic prospect of a border poll leading to a united Ireland, that Northern Ireland's future in the UK will be secure for decades to come. Your party leader says a united Ireland is within touching distance. Decades or touching distance? Which is it? Well, firstly, I believe I'm in the post of First Minister because I received a mandate from the public. They returned me to be elected to this post, and therefore, I regret the fact that for 2 years the DUP stayed out of these institutions and we weren't able to deal with the day-to-day issues, public services, the fact that so many of our public sector workers had to go out onto the picket lines. But thankfully, they've made the right call now. They've decided to come back in, and I welcome that. I welcome that we now have power sharing once again restored, and we've got a very large in-tray of work to get down to in terms of health and education right across all of the portfolios. But certainly, I read the words in the command paper which has been put out to, I don't know, to wrap around the two pieces of legislation that were tabled in Westminster. But I would absolutely contest what the British government have said in that document, insofar as my election to the post of First Minister demonstrates the change that's happening on this island. And that's a good thing. It's a healthy thing, because this change, I think, can benefit us all. So when Mary Lou McDonald talks about that it is within touching distance, I believe that we are in the decade of opportunity. And I believe also equally that we can do two things at once. We can have power sharing, we can make it stable, we can work together every day in terms of public services, and whilst we also pursue our equally legitimate aspirations, and I made that clear in the speech today.
The decade of opportunity, so you anticipate a referendum on Irish unity within the next 10 years?
Yes, I believe we're in a decade of opportunity, and there are so many things that are changing, all the old norms, the nature of the state, the fact that a nationalist Republican was never supposed to be First Minister. This all speaks to that change, and I think that's in terms of, you know, what's happening here on this island. So the next decade, I think, is the decade of opportunity.
In your speech, you called for a ceasefire again in Gaza, and you've been heavily critical of Israel, but you're going to the White House for St. Patrick's Day. What do you say to those who would consider that hypocritical?
I think our own example is a case in point. We would never have had the peace process, we would never had the Good Friday Agreement if we didn't have dialogue. It's so important that we take every opportunity and every platform in order to advocate for why we need a ceasefire, we need dialogue in the Middle East. We need that to come to an end. It's horrendous to watch every day the slaughter of the Palestinian people, and particularly women and children, day by day, losing their lives. It is horrific to watch. I think any of us that have a platform, that have a voice, that get the opportunity to go to the White House and make it very, very clear, ceasefire now, dialogue, peace, that's what the Palestinian people need. That's what everybody in the Middle East needs.
And finally, you've spoken very candidly about your own personal journey, about experiencing the stigma of becoming a mother at the age of 16. How has that shaped your journey to the office of First Minister of Northern Ireland?
Well, I suppose I would say that doesn't all of our life experience make us who we are. Sometimes you face adversity in life, sometimes things come your way, and it just helps to shape the person that you become. Has it made me a stronger person? Yes, absolutely. And I just think that my whole journey is something that I'm proud of. I'm very proud to have a beautiful daughter. I'm very proud to have a beautiful son. I'm very proud to have grandchildren now too. And I just think that this is who I am. And everything I do every day as First Minister is about making their life better. Children and their grandchildren of the future. Let's do everything we can to bring political stability, peace and reconciliation, heal the wounds of the past, and deliver good services together, because the public that we all collectively serve in this Assembly and Executive deserve no less.
First Minister and grandmother, thank you very much.
Thank you.